He woke with a gasp. Cold sweat clung to him like a shroud. Where was he? Darkness pressed in from all sides, heavy and absolute.
Panic swelled, choking him. He tried to remember, to grasp onto a single shred of familiarity. Nothing. He pushed himself up, his hand encountering something cold and hard. Stone? He was lying on a stone floor, the chill seeping into his bones. The air hung thick and stagnant, heavy with the smell of damp earth and decay.
A faint scratching sound reached him, sending a tremor down his spine. He held his breath, straining to identify the source. It came again, closer this time, followed by a soft thud. Terror, primal and instinctive, took root in his gut. He was trapped, alone in the darkness with something unknown.
Various distant screams and cries.
He scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He had to get out, had to find light, find help. Blindly, he stumbled forward, his hands outstretched, searching for an escape. His fingers brushed against a rough surface, a wall. He shuffled along, desperate for any sign of an opening.
The scratching sound followed him, a constant reminder of his unseen pursuer. A faint glimmer appeared in the distance, a beacon of hope in the oppressive darkness. With renewed determination, he stumbled towards it. As he drew closer, the glimmer resolved itself into a doorway, partially obscured by a heavy velvet curtain.
He pushed through the curtain, his hand encountering resistance from layers of dust and decay. He found himself in a large, dimly lit room. The source of the light was a single flickering candle on a massive, cobweb-draped fireplace mantel.
Various distant screams and cries.
Shadows danced ominously across the room, cast by the dying embers in the hearth. The air was thick with dust, and the faint scent of decay lingered, making his stomach churn.
He took a hesitant step into the room, his gaze darting nervously around the unfamiliar surroundings. Suddenly, a pair of eyes flashed in the darkness near the fireplace. He froze, his breath catching in his throat.
The eyes, twin points of emerald fire, stared back at him with unnerving intensity. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he made out the form of a large black cat, its sleek coat blending seamlessly with the shadows. It sat motionless, its gaze unwavering, a low growl rumbling deep within its chest.
He tried to ignore the prickle of unease that crawled up his spine. It was just a cat, he told himself. But something about the creature's unwavering stare filled him with a sense of dread he couldn't shake.
Low growl.
He averted his gaze from the cat, forcing himself to focus on finding a way out of this nightmare.
The room was a grand old parlour, its former elegance now buried under a thick layer of dust and neglect.
He moved cautiously through the room, his footsteps echoing eerily in the silence. He ran his fingers along the wall, searching for a light switch or a door.
As he rounded a towering bookcase, he heard it again. A faint whisper, barely audible above the pounding of his own heart.
It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a disembodied murmur that sent chills down his spine.
He stopped, holding his breath, straining to hear over the blood rushing in his ears. There it was again, a soft, sibilant whisper, weaving its way around him like a cold draught.
He couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, filled with malice and a chilling familiarity.
The whispers grew louder, more insistent, swirling around him like a vortex of fear.
He clapped his hands over his ears, desperate to block out the sound, but it was no use. The whispers seemed to penetrate his very skull, echoing in his mind.
He sank to his knees, overwhelmed by terror and confusion.
What was happening? Where was he? And who was whispering his name?
Suddenly the whispers ceased. He slowly lifted his head, his heart pounding in his chest. The black cat stood before him, its emerald eyes boring into his.
It opened its mouth, and to his horror, he realized it wasn't a growl he'd heard before, but words, formed silently by the creature's moving lips. "You are home," the cat said, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to resonate deep within his bones. "We've been waiting for you."
He stared at the cat, his mind reeling. Home? What did it mean? He didn't understand. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. Panic choked him, clawing at his throat.
The cat took a step closer, its shadow falling over him like a shroud. "You can't escape," it hissed, its voice filled with amusement. "This is your destiny."
He scrambled back, his eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. But there was none. He was trapped. He closed his eyes, willing himself to wake up, to break free from this terrifying nightmare.
But the cat's words echoed in his mind, filling him with a sense of dread that he couldn't shake. "This is your life now," the cat purred, its voice a sinister caress, "and it will never end."
As the cat's laughter echoed around him, he felt his sanity slipping away, replaced by a chilling certainty that he was living his worst nightmare. And there was no escape.